Hey everybody, before I get to the interview, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Chris and I'm reviewing every episode of The Office ever. I just reviewed the negotiation episode, which is Hunter's first appearance in The Office. I butchered up this interview just to fit into that field guide, so I wanted to post the entire thing here. We hit on a lot of really great topics like that one night, whether he may or may not be the father of Astrid, and really what Nicholas is up to now. So if you're a fan of The Office, be sure to check out the rest of my channel. With that, let's jump right in. Hey everybody, we're here with Nicholas D'Augusto. Thank you so much for your time, Nicholas. I know you're a busy man. So how you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm good, Chris. Thanks for having me.
So I guess to kick us off, are you a fan of The Office?
Yeah, well, I became a fan after I was cast, honestly. It's not that I wasn't a fan or something. It's just that I wasn't really... I'm usually late to the game on TV shows. I think that's a result, like if you're in TV, you're either really in on all the shows or you tend to be late to the game. And I'm one of the guys that's like, I'm doing TV a lot, or my whole world is about auditioning and that sort of stuff. And so I don't tend to want to watch a lot of television just because honestly, it tends to like not be, it tends to be a part of the work brain more than the relaxing brain. But for me at least. But I will say, what I did want to jump into was, the reason I was on The Office is this guy, Jeff Blitz. Now, do you know the name Jeff Blitz?
I do, yeah, he's director.
Okay. But I only mention it just because I'm lucky to call that guy a good friend of mine, and I've worked with him a lot over the years. I worked with him on this movie called Rocket Science, which was the first film he ever wrote and directed. He won a Sundance Directing Award for that movie. Anna Kendrick was in that movie. That was her big break. So any fans out there that want to watch Jeff Blitz's work, I recommend it because he's very, very good. And it's a fun movie, and there's a bunch of us that were very young when we did it. And anyway, I created a relationship with Jeff, and he brought me into audition, but he gave me the job of Hunter. And so, obviously it was just like a real joy to be on the show. And it's no surprise to say that it's an honor to be a part of just this world, because here I am. I worked on that show maybe 2 days, and here I am talking to you about it a decade later. But it's an honor to be a part of that world. And what I wanted to say, plugging another show of ours, Jeff was the executive producer and lead director on most of the episodes of the series I did called Trial and Error, which was an NBC series that was out a couple years ago. It did 2 seasons. And then kind of didn't have the audience, didn't make it. But it's very much in that line of The Office to Parks and Rec to Trial and Error. It was on NBC. So anybody that's a fan, one of the reasons I'm here today is because I like talking to people that are not only fans of this world, but of this style. And, I'm kind of pitching a show that's already dead. But it was a really good show. And if you like The Office, and if you like Jeffrey Blitz, which you should if you're an Office fan, because he won an Emmy for The Office. He has his very, very deft, creative hands all over that show. And so, it's just kind of creating some of the backstory and the through line to what makes being a part of something like The Office so fun in my career history.
Do you have any stories that you love to share from those 2 days of shooting?
Yeah, exactly, man. And you're right to prompt me again with that, because the thing is 2 days, I wasn't there a lot. I don't want to act as though I was a part of the show for a long period of time, but I do have a few like little nuggets I like to share. One is that, so Steve Carell is a really wonderful person. So it's, I don't know if people know that. I think people do, but I'll happily be one more person that says Steve Carell's a lovely person. And one of the things that he did was that he would walk around to every single person on the set and introduce himself and shake hands. So, he's the top dog, and he's obviously a big star at this point. And then you have other people like me who's only going to be there for a day or two. And then you have other people that are background, just kind of walking around, and maybe Steve has met them before because they've been around the show, but, doesn't know them all that well. He's very busy. But he takes the time in every scene to walk around and introduce himself, shake hands, and then go do his work. And it's really an extraordinary thing because the world of shooting television, the world of being on set, is a real status-aware world. If anybody's ever been in that world, you're really aware of what access you have to the most important people on the set, like the executive producers, directors, and talent, and where you're supposed to stay away from them, and when you can cross paths with them. And when there are people like Steve that come through and say, and just kind of treat you like a nice person, like a human, it's amazing the positivity that creates in the environment. And people loved Steve, people loved working for Steve, and he was an enormous part of what it meant to be a part of that world. And when you have people like that at the top, that's why shows like The Office can kind of take off, because then all the actors have that sort of relationship of knowing that no person is trying to sort of impolitely use their status to kind of create a negative environment that serves their specific needs. So, people love The Office because people loved working on The Office. That's one of the things. The other thing I wanted to say is that Steve is obviously relentlessly funny. The writers are relentlessly funny. And you're going to maybe know the scene better than I do, but he's like, it's one of those moments where he's in the office at the end of the night, at the end of that sequence where Hunter's there, and he's doing some direct to camera stuff. And they probably gave him 40 options, 40 joke options. And writers just coming in one after another, joke after joke after joke after joke. And he just like spits them out, does them. And everybody's dying. And they're only going to choose one. But one of the fun things of that environment was, and one of the reasons that shooting went so incredibly long on that show, was that people just never wanted to stop performing for each other. So you can imagine, if you're a fan of The Office, that I bet you'd like to see 39 outtakes, because there are 39 outtakes of basically every one of those bits. The last little anecdote I like to share is, do you know the moment when Malora Hardin, when Jan drops the box, or the bottom falls out of the box?
Right.
So that was a total accident. And, we'd done that take 2 or 3 times already. And she just walks out with the box. She hugs me, and, she kind of like she shouts what she shouts. But then there was just this one kind of magical mistake moment where, happy accident is what they call it. And the bottom just fell out. The weight of the trophy inside, or whatever the hell it was, the desk weights, just fell out of the box. And I'm just glad that, I wasn't, a big part of that world is just not laughing, and not losing focus. And I'm glad we all just kind of picked it up, and Hunter starts helping her with the box, but it was all kind of a wonderful, happy accident. And, it's fun to, whenever I see that scene, I always laugh about knowing that was just like a totally random occurrence, and it absolutely makes the scene. It makes the button of that scene.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man. So those are my little anecdotes.
So if you bring up Hunter in any crowd of Office fans, inevitably someone will start singing That One Night. So how does it feel to be connected to this iconic song that you really didn't have anything to do with at all?
Yeah, the pictures of me, I think it's really funny. I didn't know anything about that episode. That episode, it's an amazing thing to be a part of an episode like that and not be physically a part of it or have been hired to do anything for it. But I love it, obviously. It made a Hunter such a bigger character. But it's a funny joke. Like, I definitely will sing that to people and then reveal to them that I am not the person that sang it. I think it's just one of these, it's not that I enjoy dispelling the myth of it or anything, or relishing in the myth of it. It's just, I tell people the truth when they ask me, but I do think it's really funny, and I get asked a lot about it. If there's an Office fan around and they see me and recognize me, they want to know, did I sing that song?
That episode aired in 2008 or so. How many times have you just been walking down the street and someone just starts singing That One Night?
Yeah, it's not often I feel like they start singing it directly to me, but I'm not an extraordinarily famous person. I've done enough things to where randomly somebody will know me from something they really loved. But it's pretty often that it's The Office. Like, if someone recognizes me, it's about even with anything else I've done. Election, Office, Heroes, Masters of Sex, like, they're all about the same. Like, and I was barely in The Office. I'm like not there at all. And The Office is this really long show. It was how many seasons? 9 seasons?
Yep.
And so, you know, to be recognized as a 2-day bit player in a show that's 9 seasons long says a lot about people's love for The Office. So I'm always happy when somebody brings it up to me, and you know, I'm happy to oblige, and then happy, you know, and then I think slightly sad when I see their face that they realize I didn't sing it.
There's a fan theory. I don't know if you know about it, but there's a fan theory that's been getting some traction online that is that Hunter is actually the father of Malora Hardin, Jan's baby. Do you think there's any validity to that theory?
You know, man, I'm gonna abstain from answering. I think
such a Hunter move.
Yeah, right. I mean, look, he actually was good at his job, by the way. Those guys. There was a problem there. You know, they created an energy. Steve didn't want him around. But no, it would be an unfair tipping of the scales to try to say, like, I believe it's one thing or another, because I don't have any insight. I don't want to act like I do.
It wasn't in the call sheet.
I like that there's this. What'd you say?
It wasn't in the call sheet or anything like that. It
wasn't. No. Like, Hunter will eventually be the father of Jan's baby. No, I love that there's a discussion. I think there's, you know, having seen some of these videos about it, that I think that there is some, I think it's a fun theory, and, you know, there's no way I suppose to prove or disprove it ultimately, but I like the idea. Certainly they were banging, and I can't imagine he was going to be smart enough to do anything about it, and like, you know, wear a condom or something. And she, we know that she was mentally unstable at the time. So, you know, we, who knows, man? I'm happy to let the thing live out there. I'll tell you that.
Right. Okay, so that was fun. so for all of us, 2020 has been crazy. COVID's been wrecking things. So what have you been up to during your quarantine time?
Yeah, thanks, man. So, like, look, I'm not sure that a bunch of Office fans are going to directly want to dive into a show that's called God and Other Delicacies, but that is the thing that I've been doing a lot of. I actually started it last year, long before any sort of inclination that this type of 2020 would be coming. And it's a podcast that I got started so I was raised very Catholic, and I went to a Jesuit university, Jesuit high school. And I like talking to people, and I like talking to people about their faith, because I like to see it as it's really more of a filter through which I am able to get to a deeper core of a person's life. Oh yeah, that one took a dive. That one is not, that particular sound insulator is not interested in my podcast.
That's funny, because on the Zoom call, no one will, I think the way that it will show, no one will even see what it is that you're referring to. Everybody, my sound thing really just fell down.
So it's really about human connection for me. And I'm not pushing any points of view. I really like being a listener, and I like just kind of learning. I think it's a journey I like being a part of. And my journey was one of being pretty devout as a kid, and then really leaning far away from it, sort of defining myself as an atheist, and then now just kind of being interested in how other people are doing it. And so I bring on a lot of people that are religious. I brought on priests onto the show. I brought on people of I try to bring on people of many different points of view and backgrounds. I've also brought on people that are stark atheists and people that are everything in between. And ultimately it just becomes a show that tends to revolve around some really large subjects, like how were you raised? The main inciting question is, how and when were you introduced to the idea of God in your life? And basically everyone has that point of view. At some point you were either raised atheist and heard about this thing and you have a very different perspective on it, or you were raised in a very devout upbringing, or you were raised as some sort of armchair religious participant in whatever religion that is. And for me, I find it really interesting and engaging. It's really deep, tends to revolve around death at times, because death is a direct correlation to that world. or not world, whatever people want to call it. And then I bring a lot of friends of mine, almost all of the people from Trial and Error have been on the shows. People like Michael Hitchcock and Sherry Shepard, Stephen Boyer. I'm having, and then there's a lot of other people along the way. So if you're interested in listening more about it, then I'd love for you to hop on. You can find the podcast anywhere you want to get it, and it's called God and Other Delicacies.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I know I've listened to a couple of the podcast episodes. I really like your style and the approach, and I mean, you really do get to some really raw conversations.
Thanks,
that you have with your guests. I know. I'll definitely put a link in the description, and people can get at it. But I want to be conscious of your time, so I know you have a really full day, and I really appreciate you joining me.
Chris, thank you very much, man. It tickled me when you reached out. I was like, yeah, I think I would like to talk about The Office, and you've been very lovely to communicate with, and it's nice to get to meet you face to face.
Okay, and I can't say enough good things about Nicholas. When you leave someone's presence and they just make you feel better about yourself, it's a great quality, and it's a mark of a quality human being. So I really appreciate your time, Nicholas. If you enjoyed this interview, consider giving this video a like, share, subscribe to the channel. I'm sure there's a correlation between the bigger my channel gets and the bigger stars I get to interview. So with that, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.